Okay.
Okay.
Welcome, everybody. This interview is brought to you by the Creative Impact Studio. The Creative Impact Studio is an invitation only group on Facebook. It's a community for women who are building creative businesses. And my intention in doing these interviews is to share with people in our group, if you're watching this in the group, to share with people in our group um, profiling our members so that you can see who is you're standing shoulder to shoulder with in this community. And if you're watching this outside of the community, that you get a taste of who is in this group, if that's a place that you would feel you would benefit from, you would like to connect with and interact with people. So that's my intention in doing these interviews. And also that you will get inspired by the women that you hear from to see how did they get started in their business, how did they get started in their practice, where did they get their ideas from, and how are they moving forward and growing. So with that, if you don't know me, my name is Tara Letman-Achayak. I am a certified coach. I'm the founder and facilitator of the Creative Impact Studio. I work privately with people who want to launch or grow businesses. And I am very delighted today to introduce Kelly Hevel. She is a member of our community. And Kelly, I'll let you introduce yourself briefly, but I do have questions I'm going to lead you through. But just so people can get to know you, why don't you introduce yourself?
Okay. My name is Kelly Hevel, and I'm not sure how to introduce myself. I live in Istanbul. I am just actually getting started building a practice, which I think we're going to talk about later. And that's how I came to be involved in the Creative Impact Studio. I don't know. I think I'll let you ask me questions, Sarah.
Right. Okay. At this point, I'll just say this is an invitation-only community. It's free to join, and I'm going to make sure that somewhere in the vicinity of this video, if you would like to join this group, that you get an invitation. So look for that link. Yeah, so Kelly, you said you live in Istanbul, but it's not where you first started out, is it?
No, it's not where I first started out. So maybe I'll give a little background.
Okay.
I'm from the US and mostly East Coast, and I did a lot of things there. I worked in supply chain and pharmaceuticals. And one of the last things I did in the US was transition into coaching. And while I was there, I was coaching, and then I moved to Istanbul 10 years ago. And there wasn't really much awareness of what coaching was at the time. So I gave up my coaching practice and did some other kinds of work. And so I'm now working full time in a job that I like, but I was missing the coaching. So I became aware in the last few years that coaching is now a thing in Turkey, and there is a market for it, I think. And also I just feel more and more I have so much experience, and I kind of want to share it with people. So I'm looking for opportunities to mentor people and coach people, because I see them going through the same sorts of struggles I went through. So I would like to pass on what I've learned.
I like it. Being a coach myself, I get it.
Yeah.
And there are so many different kinds of coaches. I mean,
Yeah.
Health coaches, relationship coaches, leadership coaches, business coaches. How would you describe your particular style of coaching, or how would you describe the coaching practice that you have?
Okay. Well, I'm making a note to myself because I want to go back to the style question. But my practice is really new. So I'm still learning, which is where the Creative Impact Studio comes in. I'm still learning what my market is. I have an idea of who my clients are. I am really attracted to working with, and I find that they're attracted to me, working with women. Usually women who have some experience in business already, but are sort of where I was a few months ago, where I was like, okay, I'm working, my job is good, but it's not enough. I want something else. So those are the sorts of people that I'm working with at the moment. And I know it's still not quite narrow enough, but I'm learning as I go. I really want to work with ambitious women, like people who are ready to make change. And to help them identify, do they want to look for a new job? Do they need a whole new career? Do they just want to shift what they're doing where they are? Because I've had some experience working with people who thought they wanted to leave their jobs, but we were able to work through some steps that they didn't need to leave their job, they had to make some modifications.
Yeah.
So those are the kind of people I work with. And my work style, I think, is maybe a little bit unique in coaching. Because I have a kind of weird mishmash of a background. I studied art education, and then I graduated and immediately started doing supply chain planning, which is like two very opposite things. Um, so I actually really like working with creative people, but I tend to be pretty, um, what's the word? Very straightforward and sort of business-like in how I approach things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not very, I guess what I'm saying is I'm not really the woo-woo coach.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sort of very practical minded. So I like to be creative when we're thinking about where we're going, but then I want like, these are the practical steps we're going to take.
Okay, got it.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense. It does make sense. It's I look at that as the feminine and the masculine. When you said, the creative is where we're going, kind of the
Mm,
vision, what that looks like. That's very feminine.
yeah,
It's can be nebulous. It can be have fuzzy edges,
yeah,
but getting there has structure.
right.
Getting there
So,
has, right, a timeline. It has specific steps. Not
right.
that those are the only steps, but there are steps and actions to take to get to.
Right, that's a really good point. I really think that like experimentation, I think, is really important.
Hmm.
So even in the most I mean, I worked in pharmaceuticals, the most like a very regulated industry.
Mm-hmm.
But you still, there are choices, and sometimes people don't see all the choices. So I like to help you see the choices, and then we do what we think is the next step, and if it doesn't work, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
We do something else.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's the taking of the steps that, like, that's why I say ambitious. I'm like, I want to work with people who are ready to take the steps.
Yeah. Yeah. Ready to go. Yep.
Yeah, let's go. Like, I'm a kind of like a let's go person.
Let's go. Time to do. Good.
Yeah, get it done.
So you talked a little bit about why you started this coaching practice. Can you be more specific in terms
Mm,
of, you said, okay, I like my job, but it wasn't
mm,
enough.
yeah.
So what did you find was missing? And that was part of the purpose of you starting a coaching practice when you already like your job.
Yeah, well, I want to say this is true of all jobs, but it may not be true of all jobs. But in my experience, many jobs require you to really focus on one set of skills. So analytic skills. Like, let's go to my pharmaceutical planning. It was all about analytic skills, looking at numbers, what are the trends. So if you're doing something like that or something very goal oriented, there isn't a lot of creativity built into it. It kind of like it is what it is sometimes. Like, this is the work, this is what needs to be done. We've got a process, it's working. I mean, I don't really, while I like to look at visions, I don't, if things are working, I don't think you have to change them for the sake of changing them. So I'm in a very goal-oriented job, but I'm not able to really share experience with people, mentor people, help people grow, learn from my experience. Like, those are the things I'm missing. So, and that's also a very individualized job that I'm doing. So I miss working with people. I'm an introvert, but I also like to work with people. So I'm missing that piece,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm looking for that piece.
And it
As a coach.
sounds like that is also some of the work you do with your coaching clients, is helping them find whatever needs to come into their life that's not in their
Yeah,
life.
I mean, I found with the clients that I'm working with now, it's overwhelmingly they're doing so many things, actually. They're trying to balance a lot like these working women, like I don't have kids, but these people, they've got kids, they've got 3 jobs, they've got husbands who travel all the time, and I'm like, oh my gosh. But still they feel like they're missing something.
Yeah.
So then it's about what should we focus on, what can we get rid of?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which sounds like the practical pieces.
Yeah, I'm like, maybe we need to stop doing that one thing. Like, why are we doing that?
So you talked about, well, my next question for you is a success story or a case study or a specific story that you can tell that's an example of, how you work.
Okay.
You mentioned something, there was this one woman and she
Okay.
thought she needed to do this and we really just did that. So
Yeah,
kind of fill in, paint the picture and fill in some details.
yeah. Well, like, as a coach, actually, this reminds me that we also need to keep an open mind. I mean, part of coaching is letting the person lead you where they want to go, but still sometimes in the back of your mind, you think you have the answer, you want them to discover it, but you think you have it.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, I didn't have the answer. She really had the answer. So I was working with a nurse, and when she first came to me, she was really unhappy about her job, and she wasn't really convinced, but she was talking a lot about leaving her job. And she was working in a hospital, and she had been there for a long time. She was really experienced, and she was feeling undervalued, and also sort of like I felt, where like there's got to be more. Like, I know how to do my job. I do my job well. Now what? Kind of feeling. So we started with her. We went a couple directions. First, she thought maybe she wanted a whole new career shift. So she wanted to leave her job, maybe. So we talked about that for a while. And then she thought, well, maybe she just needed to get the same kind of job in another place. But as we worked through the process, like what it was she really wanted, what it turned out that she wanted to do was a lot of different things. So I encouraged her to go talk to her supervisor because she was seeing some things she wanted to pick up, but she was afraid that she wouldn't be allowed to do them because she didn't have the right qualifications. She didn't have the right degrees. But when she went and spoke to her supervisor, they were more than happy to let her take on this work. So that made her feel valued and really happy. She also, because she was so experienced, wanted to teach. And again, she thought, I can't teach. I don't have teaching qualifications. But it turned out she went and spoke to, this was in Canada, so I'm not exactly sure of the educational institutions and how they work, but she ended up teaching a class I think it was sort of like a community college situation. And her job was happy to give her those particular days and times to do that. And the other thing was, like, that still wasn't enough. She still wasn't hitting her creative side, and this was really funny. It took us a lot of digging down because she didn't want to admit it, but what she really, really wanted to do was woodworking. So I remember being like, that's really interesting. Like, where did that idea even come from? And she's like, well, there's this old man down the road, and I see him working in his garage, and he has a whole setup. So she went and talked to him, and he was giving her woodworking lessons. So like that's the last I heard from her. Like, we wrapped up our time together, and she was woodworking down the road and teaching at the community college and happy in her job. So it's not always a huge change. Like, it's not like everybody should go quit their jobs. We just had to do some interesting tweaks.
Yeah. Beautiful story.
Yeah.
And interesting pieces that she ended up adding in.
Yeah, people are so surprising.
Yeah.
They tell you things and you're like, what?
So let's see, Kelly. I said one of my intentions was that people who are not inside the Creative Impact Studio, if that's a place where they would feel supported, welcome, nurtured in their own journey to launching and growing their business. For them to hear from you, what do you like about the Creative Impact Studio? What do you get out of it? How has it influenced your life and your business? Can you share a little bit about your experience in our community?
Yeah, there are a couple things I want to mention. And one, you already said, it's the support. It's people I mean, for me, I'm really at the beginning. I'm not really sure who I'll be working with, what I'll be doing with them. So it's just nice to be in a community of people where there are others in the same situation. You can ask questions and you don't, they know what you're talking about. And also, more experienced people can give you their advice and experience. Um, and it's easy to ask questions. Everybody sort of knows where you're coming from. So I think that support and community is really important. Um, the other thing is, I just like to see what people are talking about because I don't even think of questions sometimes, and somebody will post something, and I'll think, oh, I should check that out, or that's a solution to a problem I didn't even know I had. So having a community of people doing the same thing, sort of things, in the same process is really important, I think.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
also it's mixed. Like I really like that people are doing very different things because you still see the same process, but they approach it different ways. So that to me, like I said, I like to sort of see all of those different sorts of solutions and see how I can use them. So I think that's really helpful.
yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what we're doing now in the community is I host live events every Wednesday. Usually there's some kind of discussion topic or some kind of training topic, and so if you're watching this outside of the group and it is close to Wednesday, like Monday or Tuesday, jump in because Wednesday we have a live community event and some kind of discussion topic, something to gravitate around.
Sure.
That's all right. And it's also a chance to come together like live
Hmm.
in person at the same time. So it's a global community. Women are all over the world, and we've had people connect, create partnerships, um, buy services from one another. So that's kind of the big focus every Wednesday is that live event. And also, you can do lots of networking outside of that. But that's kind of one of our big drives. And I think
Yeah.
maybe what you're talking about when you say, you know, seeing what other people are doing and hearing their questions, something I didn't necessarily think about. But that's when a lot of the activity happens is that Wednesday event. So
Yeah, and that's really helpful. I've participated and asked questions live, but also the fact that it's a playback. If
mm-hmm.
I have to miss it for whatever reason, I can go back and I know you're following along and I can read other people's questions and the answers, so it's really
Yeah,
helpful
yeah,
actually. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Good. So let's see. Anything else, Kelly, before we kind of bring this to a close? Anything you want to add or?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No. Just thank you.
You're welcome. Well, thank
Thanks for
you.
having me.
You're welcome. And how can people connect with you if they want to check out your coaching practice? Any resources you have, perhaps, that they can take
I
advantage of?
do. Yes, I'm just now putting a resource up. It should be up today or tomorrow. Called, what did I call it? From Frazzle to Focus, 4 strategies to bring you clarity. So if you go to my website, it's kellyhevel.net.
Okay.
You'll be able to see a pop-up about that today or tomorrow. I'm working
Okay.
on it. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll get the link from you. I'll put it in. I'll put it in the
Okay.
description for this video, and people
Yep.
can connect with you there. And if you would like to join the Creative Impact Studio, I will also put the invitation for you to join. When you do that, you will get a copy of the Creative Launch Reference Guide, which is a 4-phase methodology that I use with people to get them from idea to plan to implementation to results. That they can use that to launch and grow. You will also get a link to the whole training library. So as Kelly mentioned, that there are replays of all the trainings. So you'll get a link to the training library and you can watch any of the trainings and community events that we've had. And then you will also get access to the community. So all of that I'm going to make sure is available for you watching this video. If you're in the community watching this video, connect with Kelly.
Ah, let's do.
And and if you would like to be a featured member, send me a private message on Facebook and add yourself to the member directory, and I will be scheduling an interview with you. So with that, thank you again, Kelly. It's always a pleasure to connect with you,
Yeah.
and I will sign off as always with much love. See you out there.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye, Kelly.
Bye bye.